You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Steve Helwick joined us as an expert on all things college football. Underdog Dynasty, you want to check out his writing, a bunch of different programs from all different smaller conferences, but also covers some of the Power 4 stuff in there. Houston guy himself, so he covers both of these programs. And Steve, you mentioned the big interior presence there with the Rice Owls. And I want to say Houston got better along the offensive line, even if they only scored 27 points last weekend. But they have it's Clark Holivet. I'm saying that right? Big guy up front. Anyway, I want to ask, what do you think do you think they have the same kind of advantage this week that they should, being a Power 4 team versus a American team, or is Rice going to be able to keep it more even in the trenches?
I'm not sure. I always I've never used the Power 4 or like any of that label. I mean, look at the UNLV game last year. We were on here panicking about how bad the offensive line was after that one game because UNLV's defense just demolished that offensive line. So I don't really like those labels for that game. But Houston's offensive line certainly a work in progress. Willie Fritz gave them a C grade in his post-game press conference, and they weren't able to, I said, really block for consistent long runs. They weren't able to really put Stephen F. Austin's defense in their place as they should have against an FCS team. And Fritz cited a few things in his post-game press conference of that it's a new group. There's 5 transfers gelling together in their first in-game action at once. A lot of them, guys like Jason Brooks Jr., haven't played for a while. And he did cite one thing that I think might be concerning is the fatigue factor. He said fatigue definitely played a role in that game, and they don't have 3.5-hour practices with a pregame warm-up between. So the guys weren't really ready to go that long. So that was a good lesson in fatigue for them. So with that fatigue being cited, I wonder how the rotation looks. I know they played some guys in garbage time. It sounds like Willie Fritz is comfortable playing 7 guys. That includes 5 transfers, which kind of make up the main offensive line. And then the 2 returning starters last year, Demetrius Pancake Hunter at center and David Ndukwe at left tackle, who I think will be in more reserve roles for the most part going forward, with Matthew Wyckoff taking the center spot, Mackenzie Agnello taking the right guard spot, and then at left tackle is Alvin Ebasele. So I do think that Houston really needs to figure out its offensive line, find the right group of 5 guys on that line going forward, because Rice's defensive line, it might be the best part of this team. Michael Daly, Joseph Mutombo, both played excellent games in that week 1 against Louisiana. Rice managed 3 sacks in that game. They managed, it was 6 tackles for loss. Blake Banish, 340-pound force that commands so much attention in the middle. Veteran presence there. He hopped on a fumble in that game. And Michael Daly, a name I just mentioned a few seconds ago, he batted down a pass at the line of scrimmage to stop a 4th and 10 and seal that win. So Rice's defensive line really ate up Louisiana in that game, and that's something that Houston's offensive line is going to have to prepare for.
So you see these teams as fairly comparable, it feels like, so far in a lot of ways. FanDuel, our buddies over at FanDuel, have the line at Houston by 13.5. The over-under set at 39.5. They feel this is an ugly game that Houston's going to win by roughly 2 scores, right? Because 10 points, right? 10 to 14, somewhere in there. Do you think that that's fair? Do you feel like Houston doesn't have that big of an advantage? Again, you cover both programs, so you're in a unique seat here to kind of make a prediction. I should point out that Steve's prediction is officially going to be published on Underdog Dynasty on Thursday. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, it'll be out around the same time, hopefully. Go check that out as well. But Steve, do you feel like this is something where they're maybe closer than the public realizes?
Not to brag, but I've nailed a lot of my week 1 predictions out there that I put on here. So maybe this does hold a lot of weight. So I do love the fact that the over-under is under 40, because I do think that this game is going to be a grinded-out, low-scoring game. I think Houston's offense is going to be a lot more challenged than they were against Stephen F. Austin, which isn't a great thing to hear if you're Houston fans, because you punted 7 times. You had, 5 3-and-outs in that game against Stephen F. Austin? It was something around 5 3-and-outs, I think. And
yeah.
Yeah, and also you weren't really able to get some of those breakaway runs that you wanted on the ground. I think only just one carry more than 20 yards all game, and that was Connor Wegman. So you wanted a little more production out of the running backs.
And
So
Connor's run was a scramble and a bad snap at that.
yeah, and that was a nice juke he hit. That was his longest run since
Yeah.
2022. So good to see him healthy again because he has that mobility when he has full health in him. But back to the spread, I think 13.5 and 39.5 are good spread and over-unders for this game. If you would like a score prediction, I have been leaning on Houston 24, Rice 7 is what I'm leaning on publishing in my preview tomorrow. I mean, last year's Bayou Bucket score was 33-7. I said Rice scored his only touchdown with about a minute left in that game. That was one of the better Houston offensive performances of the year. We saw Stacey Sneed get some explosive runs in that game, started the game with a 65-yard run. Mekhi Muse had his punt return. Boogie Johnson had a 44-yard reception. Donovan Smith had a 37-yard run. So, yeah, that was Houston's most explosive playmaking game last year. I don't know if we'll see that same level of explosiveness from Houston because that was quite a bit, but I think you should see a little more than you saw in the Stephen F. Austin game, but they'll still be challenged a lot by Rice's defense.
Do you, I know it's super early in the season and there's a rivalry element to this. So I guess the easy answer is yes, but rivalry aside, for just like wins, losses, feeling good about the season, is it already a must win for either team? I mean, you're in year 1 of one rebuild, year 2 of the other.
I think this is a must win for Houston. I do not think it's a must win for Rice. The fact that Rice beat Louisiana and is 1-0, they're already ahead of schedule, in my opinion. Anything like 2-0 for Rice against Louisiana and Houston, oh my gosh, like that storm the field at Rice Stadium. I mean, that would be incredible for the Owls. Because the last time Rice started 2-0 was it's been a while. I can't think of it off the top of my head with researching, but it has been a long time since the Owls started 2-0. And that would be huge, especially doing it against 2 FBS programs and getting an FCS opponent that you can route in week 3. So that would be a big bonus for Rice. I think Rice should be 2-1 at least after 3 weeks. For Houston, this is a must win. You were talking about the Dana Holgerson thing and how one of the main points in his firing was losing to Rice in this 23 game after having such a great momentum week 1 win over UTSA that year. So, yeah, I think that Houston needs to prove it can win on the road and show some progress heading into year 2 of the Willie Fritz era and show that they can make that leap this year to become a bowl team, because once you get to the Big 12, it's a grind. Every single game is a grind.
It's such a tricky offense to play against. They've been doing it for a couple months now, and you're only, 2 weeks in the season yourself. You did have a little bit longer week, I guess, theoretically, with last week's game being played Thursday, so you got a couple extra days to prepare for this gun choice, triple option-y feeling offense that Rice has. You're throwing the rivalry element. It is a road game, but it's only across town. Imagine there's a lot of red in the stands. It's going to be a fun game on Saturday. That's Steve Helwick, Underdog Dynasty. He's previewed it, talked about the players on both sides, as well as go check out all the work he's doing over there. That's at S_Helwick on X. I'm Park Ranger, host of Locked On Cougs, bringing you Houston Cougar news each and every day. So hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know we're live. We'll be bringing you more this afternoon with a Big 12 squad show, and then more on Rice and going into the weekend tomorrow. And we're live post-game as well. Locked On Coogs, proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. Go Coogs.